Hey. All right, so we've already done our opening prayer. I forgot to hit the play button before we did that, but that's fine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom's Table, Women's Bible Study. Woo! Just glad you're here. We are continuing on in our overall series on hard hats and soft hearts based on Proverbs 14:1, which says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her hands. We want to be women after God's own heart. We want to be wise women, and we want to build our homes, whether it's our existing homes or future homes for those of us that are, for anybody that is not married but desires to be. So that's what we are talking about, and that's what we've been talking about. I'll give a little bit of review in just a moment, but I did have one announcement. Most of you probably already know, but I just want to remind everyone that the Wisdom's Table podcast for wives, it launches this Sunday. Praise the Lord. It's going to live stream on acceleratedradio.net at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And it will also be streamed live on Facebook Live on the Reluctant First Lady Facebook page. That's a public page. The Reluctant First Lady page. That's my AKA, the Reluctant First Lady. And so I'm really excited. This is something that the Lord has opened up the door and confirmed some things to have me launch this. And so I'm really excited. Just be in prayer. Did you have a question, Marcy? Or no?
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm just moving around.
Oh, no worries. Hi, Marcy.
Hi, hello.
And so, yeah, that's the Wisdom's Table podcast for wives, live streaming on acceleratedradio.net.
All righty.
And then on Facebook Live on the Reluctant First Lady page. And then, of course, after Sunday at 6 o'clock, you can access it, download it, listen to it anytime on one of whichever favorite podcast app you like iTunes, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. The acceleratedradio.net is a wonderful platform because it pushes out to all these other apps. So it makes it very convenient for people. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for those of you that have been praying for Wisdom's Table. This is just one more extension of expansion of what God, I believe, has called me to do in teaching women biblical truths that we can apply in our lives right now. So praise God. So as I said, we are continuing on with hard hats and soft hearts for wisdom for building or renovating our marriages. And so one of the things, as the ladies that are present know, that we have husband homework each week. We get a whole week to try to get it going, and so we have last week's homework. Last week's homework was to give your husband a little bit more affection, a soft touch as you pass him by, a 5-second kiss, different things. And so who did the homework last week? Okay. D'Angela, you want to share?
I'm the only one again.
But nobody else is raising their hand.
Oh man.
I'm just kidding. Oh, Lisa did it too. Okay. Who wants to go first? Lisa, you want to go first?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, so my husband went to a wedding of a coworker, a male coworker, and from his old job. He hadn't been keeping in touch, but he got an invitation, so he decided to go. And he he took his twin brother with him, and but before he left, he got dressed, and one of the, you had the what's the word I'm looking for? You had us write down 10 things that we love about our husbands.
Yeah.
And so one of those things was, I love the way he dresses when he dresses up. And so when he dressed up Saturday to go to the wedding, and I didn't really want to go, but and so he took away with him, but he dressed up for the wedding and he looked really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so I complimented him, and I had to take pictures. So, and I told him how handsome he was, and like grinning from ear to ear. So, I think that because I really hadn't said anything like that in a while,
Okay, I was
because
gonna
we're
ask.
like building over again. So I think that he had a really big smile on his face, and he was just posing and cheesing, for the pictures. So
Good.
that was a good thing that happened on Saturday.
Great. You
Awesome.
you get an A plus on your husband homework. Okay, D'Angelo, what would you share?
Okay. I did mine when we were working. Me and my husband work at home. So I work back in the computer room, and he works in the bedroom.
Mhm.
So as I go in there, my husband has a bald head. He shaved his bald head, shaved his hair. So so I went in there, and when I went in there, I was gonna walk past, but then I back before I can get to his chair. I thought about it. I said, "Oh, I can rub his head and give him a little massage." So that's what I did. I just rubbed his head and just massaged it, and tickled his ears and stuff like that. And then that was it. He's like, and I gave him a kiss, and that was it.
That was it. What was his response? And we are on recording, and
Thank you, thank you. I needed that
okay,
little in his back. So yeah, I mean his neck. So yeah.
great, great, positive responses, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so the key was to do something that was like a little more than what you usually do, um, only because they're not expecting it, and so they'll pay attention to that little extra. They'll pay attention to that, and it's just a positive, just one way to follow what Titus 2:4 says about the older women teaching younger women to love their husbands. Well, what does that look like? Sometimes it looks like rubbing your husband's bald head. As simple as that, right? So that's great. I want to say hi to Shalene. I saw you had a little bit of trouble getting in. Are you?
Yeah, I'm okay now. I don't know what's my audio on my laptop is acting up. So
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
yeah. Hi everyone.
Hey.
Ashley.
Okay, so the homework, husband homework for this coming week is to let him, and I'm talking to myself, Laurel, let him do things for you. Laurel, let him open your door, lift that heavy box, etc. So same thing to you guys. I'm like, let me just go ahead and do this. As I get older, it's good, to have some weight bearing, activity on my body to keep my bones strong. Charlton's not around. Why do I have to wait? So I'm talking to myself, but let your husband do things for you, the small things. Sure, you can open that jar, but let him do it. Just go and ask him, hey, could you open this jar for me? Or, just let him do things for you that you can do for yourself. It's not an insult if he wants to do them for you. Unless he says, you don't know how to do this. But if he's not saying that, he wants to do something positive for you, and just allow him to do it. And so it's like, let him honor you as the weaker vessel, according to 1 Peter 3:7. Now, remember what I said last week or the week prior, 1 Peter 3:7 That does not mean, that scripture does not mean weaker in the sense of, emotionally weaker or weaker in intellect or reasoning skills or common sense. It doesn't mean that kind of weak. It doesn't mean weaker spiritually. It doesn't mean weaker in terms of dealing with temptations. It just is referring to the physical. Generally speaking, men are stronger than women. And so even if we know we can handle, some physical activity or something that may be a physical challenge for us, but as long as we know we're being wise about it, not allowing ourselves to be hurt while we're doing, certain things. I have to be careful, for instance, because I have bad back, lower back and upper back. So I have to be careful about that. But, we'll be wise about it. And it's letting him honor you as the weaker vessel, physically weaker vessel. Let him feel like your knight in shining armor. That's part of what helps to build up a man, and to reinforce the positive things about him and his character, is to let him feel like he is providing the strength that you need sometimes, and going about your daily activities or daily chores around the house or whatever it is, helping with the groceries, whatever it is. So any thoughts or questions on that? Is it clear what the homework is? Yes, no?
Well, I got it.
Okay,
Got it.
because it's just D'Angela and I on video. I can't see body language or anything. So the verbal or even just the hand raise emoji is good as I go through. So thank you. All right, so we are, as I said, continuing on with red flags. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Toretta. We are talking about red flags and warning signs of domestic violence. This series is this is a sub-series of hard hats and soft hearts. And in this sub-series, it's basically love shouldn't hurt like this regarding domestic violence. So this is part 4. I think it's part 4, and we're just, as I said, we started last week looking at some warning signs. I started giving a list of warning signs of an abusive person. And so we're going to finish looking at that list. It was a list that I got from was a Portland law enforcement organization, and they have a program called the Portland Women's Strength Program, and so they're the ones that provided this list or have it on their website. It's 18 warning signs, and then when I finish with that tonight, I want to also look more, drill down and look specifically at narcissistic personality disorder, recognizing and dealing with a narcissist. Now, this is, for single women, this is so important. It's like, know the warning signs before you decide to get serious with a man and even contemplate marriage with a man. Know what the warning signs are. Narcissists, what if you're already married to a narcissist? So I want to not just, kind of define what characterizes a narcissist, what are the characteristics of a narcissist, but also if you're already married to one, or if you have other narcissists in your life, a parent, a sibling, a child, another significant person in your life, how do you deal with it? So I want to end with that tonight, Lord willing. So with that in mind, let me also say that I had given 1 or 2 Bible studies ago about 3, let me see where it is, 3 scriptures. First, they were Ephesians 5:25 through 33, which is about, we're not going to turn to these 3 scriptures, but all of these scriptures, all 3 of these are just three out of many that points to why God hates domestic violence. Why, if you are a victim, if you are currently experiencing domestic violence is, remember, we define that, and it's like a very narrow definition where there's physical injury or threat of physical injury from your husband. Or if you're a perpetrator, you know, it can apply to women as well. Women are just, there are statistics, I don't have the source of them right now, I'm sorry, but there are statistics that say that women and men, they're about even when it comes to who initiates domestic violence in a household, and husband and wife. So statistically, we may initiate it almost as much as men do, but the statistics are obviously so much different. Women are far more likely to get hurt. Even if we initiated equally, you know, equal times as men. I say we, I mean women, okay? It's still, we tend to get injured far worse. And then also women tend to use a weapon, grits, a frying pan, telephone, well, not so much anymore, the telephone, but you know, we tend to use a weapon. But God hates it. And Ephesians 5:25-33 talks about, you know, specifically about husbands loving their wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. And talks about, you know, our husbands should love us like Christ loves his church. And our husbands should love us like they love themselves. And Christ never abuses his church. And, you know, we don't need to tell, no, we don't need to be told that we need to love ourselves. And now we hear that all the time in society these days, don't we? Left and right, do self-love, self-love, self-love. You got to love yourself first, all of these things. And that's not exactly biblical, because we are to love God first, and we are to love. There's nothing in the scriptures that says love yourself. There's nothing in the scriptures that says love yourself. It says love one another. It says things like in you know, in Ephesians 5:25-33, love your wife as you love yourself. It's like almost, you know, presumed that we love ourselves. We don't need to be told, we automatically do. And then the second scripture is 1 Peter 3:7. I mentioned it just a moment ago, but husbands are to dwell with wives according to knowledge or wisdom, as the physically weaker vessel. And it says there at the end of that verse, so that your husband's prayers will not be hindered. And so a husband's prayers can be hindered if they are not honoring their wives, or the physical weakness, honoring, not taking advantage of, but honoring the physically weaker wife. And then lastly, the third one is 1 Corinthians 7:4. 1 Corinthians 7:4, the context there is talking about fornication. So, but it's also here talking about sex in marriage, physical intimacy in marriage. And that verse 4 in particular is making the point that, yes, in the context of sex, the wife's body does not belong to her. It belongs to the husband. But also the vice versa is true. The husband's body does not belong to him. It belongs to his wife. There's equal, mutual possession of one another, so to speak. Not as a slave, not possession like, you know, we're just, you know, inanimate objects. But the point is that the husband does not own the wife in order to abuse her. And also the husbands need, and the perpetrators of domestic violence, whether husband or wife, either way, just as much as, you know, the abuser thinks that they can do whatever they want to their spouse. Well, they forget, well, in God's eyes, your spouse, if that were the case, and your spouse should be able to do whatever they want to you. But abusers don't know. They want full control. They want control of themselves and they want control of their spouse. So just again, look at those, Ephesians 5:25-33, 1 Peter 3:7, 1 Corinthians 7:4, in their context, read them on your own. And also, of course, you can look back, go to the Facebook page, Wisdom Stable Facebook page, or the YouTube, Wisdom Stable YouTube channel, to kind of refresh your memory or to review those previous lessons on parts 2 and 3 of domestic violence. All right, so red flags and warning signs for Christians, red flags and warning signs of abuse. So there are, as I said, I started reading the list last week and want to finish it, but let me just very quickly go. We went through 1 through 7 out of 18 last week. Those are jealousy and possessiveness, controlling behavior, quick involvement, real quick involvement after you meet this person. Number 4, unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic, that's the key. 5 is isolation. They isolate you from your family, your friends. Number 6 is blames others for their own problems. So an abusive person will blame others for his or her own problems. And number 7, blames others for their own feelings. You're making me mad. You made me do that. That kind of blaming, instead of taking ownership and accountability for how they feel. So now I'll go through the next 8, however many, my math is bad, but anyway, number 8, red flag warning sign of an abusive person. And stop me if you have any questions or any comments, okay? Don't want to just, I really want us to get this, even if even if we are married, are we equipped to help a hurting friend going through this? That we want to make sure that we're understanding and we're equipped to share, to recognize maybe like a friend, they're dating somebody, think about, getting more serious with this person, your girlfriend, your sister, your mother, whoever, and you are seeing some of these signs, and you can gently tell the person, hey, let me show you what I'm seeing here, what my concern is. They may hear you or they may not, but at least you're equipped now, not to say you weren't before, but at least you're equipped to say, hey, here are some of the warning signs that I see. Okay, number 8, hypersensitivity. Hypersensitivity. Easily, this is a description of that. Easily insulted. Sees everything as a personal attack. Looks for fights. Blows things out of proportion. Unpredictable. And you can never tell what will upset him. Okay, that's hypersensitivity. Number 9 is disrespectful or cruel to others. Disrespectful or cruel to others. This is this person. Punishes animals or children cruelly. Sorry. Insensitive to pain and suffering. Insensitive to it. Unless, of course, it's their own. Teases children until they cry. Doesn't treat others with respect. And dismissive of other people's feelings. All right, number 10, playful use of force during sexual activity. Now they say, oh, I'm just playing around, okay? Little concern over whether you want sex or not, and uses sulking or anger to manipulate you into compliance. makes sexual or degrading jokes about you. Okay. Number 11, verbal abuse of any kind. I think maybe that speaks for itself. Number 12, rigid sex roles. Rigid sex roles. Believes women are inferior to men. Unable to be a whole person without a relationship. Now, if you're the man you're dating says you complete me, that doesn't mean that automatically, oh, he's abusive. He can't be complete without some. No, I mean, you look at all of these signs, together and make a judgment based upon that. Dr. Jekyll, this is number 13, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Sudden mood changes, like they have two personalities. 1 minute they're nice, next minute they're exploding. 1 minute happy, the next minute sad. Number 14, past battering. They have a history of battering. You may hear the person was abusive to someone else. They say it's a lie, or their ex was crazy, or it wasn't that bad. They'll make excuses or make light of it or belittle it in some kind of way, be dismissive about it in some kind of way. But past battering is definitely a sign of an abusive person. Number 15, threats of any kind. Threats of any kind. They're being so angry. Just because a person's so angry, not every person gets so angry where they're like, I could kill you right now. Or you better watch out, I could make life miserable, I could crush you, we could all say, it's just like, not everybody that gets so angry lashes out with the threats. And it doesn't necessarily have to be verbal threats, right? It could be like, him, coming at you with his fist in the air, and he may never land a punch, but consider that a threat. Thank goodness he stops, but be aware of that. He needs to be able to control it to the point where he's not even raising a hand to you. And then number 16, breaking or striking objects. He breaks loved possessions. He beats on the table with his fists. He throws things. Okay, that's a warning sign. When and where will he stop? Number 17, any force during an argument. Is he pushing? Is he shoving? Or is he physically restraining you from leaving the room? Okay, these are warning signs. And then lastly, number 18, he doesn't respect your property or your privacy. All right, any questions or comments, thoughts on this list? Can we see how this, all of these signs are contrary to what we see in Ephesians 5, 1 Peter 3:7 in particular, and even 1 Corinthians 7:4. All right. So now let's talk about narcissistic personality disorder. Who knows somebody or has known somebody that has that you would say, or that don't may say who it is, but have you dealt with a narcissistic person before, whether relationship or at work or ever in your life? So Loretta, you have?
Yes.
Yeah. You too, Lisa, and hi, Samaya.
Yes.
And hi, Nicole, by the way. Yeah. Yes.
Hi. Yes, I have too. Mhm.
Very difficult. Very difficult. And sometimes you
Mhm.
don't realize it. You may not recognize it in somebody until the toxicity has gotten to the point where, it's what else could it be? And from, my husband and I we had a family member that didn't understand what they were doing, like in trying to help them, reason with them. I'll go into the characteristics of it, but it became very, very toxic to the point where let's research what's going on. And just a simple Google search, and there's tons of information on narcissism. Now and I'm going to say this, I meant to say it earlier, I am not, even in teaching on domestic violence, I'm not a family, marriage and family therapist, a professional. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a life coach, a certified life coach, none of that. I just like to present the word of God, and as best as the Holy Spirit, illuminates his word to me. And so that's all I'm doing now. So I'm certainly not qualified to officially diagnose anybody with NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not trying to presume to do that. However, any of us, like I said, can go into Google and research any topic in the world, it seems. And so, and my husband and my research a few years ago, there's some things it's like, yes, that's exactly what they do, that kind of thing. But it's very difficult to deal with. Now, a lot of these red flags and warning signs on an abusive person, a lot of those traits, the 18 traits or characteristics or red flags, they overlap with a narcissistic person. Not every abusive person necessarily is a narcissist, but 9 times out of 10 they are, I would say. And so that's why I wanted to look at this specifically. Many abusers, particularly emotional abusers, are narcissistic, or at least display some, NPD traits. I'll go over those traits in a minute. People with NPD have low empathy. Empathy it's different from, or it goes deeper than sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry or, caring about somebody else and what, feeling sorry for what you're genuinely remorseful or sorry for what they're going through, having feelings, of sadness for that person. Empathy takes it like even further by feeling some kind of personal connection to what another person is feeling. So empathy, not only do I care about how you're feeling, I feel what you're feeling. And that's empathy, but narcissists don't make that connection. They cannot relate to, they have difficulty relating to, paying attention to, recognizing, even stopping and thinking about how is this other person feeling. It's not, some people with NPD have it so bad that they are oblivious to other people's feelings. They don't know how to feel sorry. Now, I want to qualify that, just because they don't know how, that's not an excuse from a biblical perspective, because we are all, we all know right from wrong. We all know what, we all experience, personal hurt or sadness or fear, doubt, or confusion. We all have those emotions, but for some reason, it's hard. Some people are oblivious to understanding that other people can feel those same feelings. They just don't seem to care. And, I think from a biblical perspective, the world calls everything a disorder. But some things are a moral issue and not necessarily, yes, it may be a mental or emotional, you know, clinical mental illness or disorder, but I don't know exactly what, I haven't researched it. I don't know exactly what that fine line of difference is. But I do know from personal experience of my own, as well as the experience of other people, that narcissists are, to varying degrees are toxic. They, and they get in the way of healthy relationships. Okay. So they have, and one reason is because they have low empathy. They also tend to view other people as beneath them. And because of these traits, they are often seen as toxic. If there's difficult, every relationship has its difficulties, say. Every marriage has its difficulties. So if you're married to a narcissist and they're always wanting to make a point about how they feel, how they feel, what's happening to them, what's being done to them, the conversations are very lopsided because it's all about the narcissist and never about the narcissist spouse. And it's like talking to, this wall behind me, it's not going to hear. It's not going to hear, it's not going to listen. Narcissists are very difficult to deal with because virtually everything they do, even if they do things for other people, is for selfish reasons, namely to get what they want. So it's a narcissistic abuser, like the example that we gave of they like to flatter, they like to gift you with things. And you're saying, oh, how sweet, how wonderful, oh, he's so generous and so thoughtful. And it's like, he has ulterior motives. Now, again, not every man that gives you a wonderful gift has an ulterior motive. I'm not saying that. But when you look at a narcissist with all of his traits, that's one of them. It's even the things, the generous things that they do are what seemed on the surface to be, over and above, being generous and thoughtful and caring, is for selfish reasons so that they can manipulate you and get what they want out of you. They do not think objectively or rationally, which makes it almost impossible to reason with them. So I have certainly experienced that. And there's a difference. There's covert narcissism, and then there's overt. So overt means like a physical abuser, or verbal abuser. It's clear that they have they're covert. They're overt. There's no hiding it. You don't have to second guess. They want control. They demand control. They are harmful to you and have no care about it whatsoever. There's no hiding it. A covert person is the one who's always generous, who's always doing something for you, who likes to play the victim themselves, or to, deprecate themselves. One narcissist that we know, my husband and I know, it's like you try to explain something to them and they're like, I guess I'm just an awful person. Maybe I should just ask the Lord to call me home, and it's like, no, that's not the response. It's like, just own what you need to own. Let's try to reach an understanding, and it's like, okay, well, that's all manipulation to get what you want. It's just a different way of going about it. It's covert. So any questions about that so far? Got a few more things to say about narcissism. Signs of a narcissist. I want to go over those. Signs and examples. And I think I can do it in our remaining time. Signs of a narcissist. This is from signs and examples of this information is from talkspace.com. And it's by a therapist, Elizabeth Keehan, I believe Keihan. I'm not necessarily endorsing this person or this organization, Talkspace, or the website, but I like to give credit where it is due. But again, we are Christians and we want to look at this information in the context of what should we as Christian women do, and how can we deal with a narcissist, keeping in mind the scriptures that we've gone over already. Signs of a narcissist: constant need for admiration, a constant need, never satisfied. So Lisa gave, she reported on how she did with her homework for last week, which was to give a little extra affection, and she complimented her husband on his looks, took pictures of him, and he was just grinning from ear to ear, and that's wonderful. If he needs her to do that every single day and gets mad at her, well, gosh, you were all over me yesterday when I was getting ready for the wedding, and now today you're not saying nothing was right. It's like that every day. That would be a problem. So constant need for admiration. Number 2, isolates the victim. We talked about that last week as one of the warning signs of an abusive person. Isolates from friends and family, badmouths friends and family. Questions every time the victim wants to go somewhere, meet up with their mother or with family or friends. Number 3, the narcissist will damage the victim's confidence. Shalene, did you have something you wanted to add or say?
No.
Okay. So number 3, damage the victim's confidence, which helps the narcissist control them and gain more power. Constantly, putting you down, second guessing you. Yeah, well, maybe, but do you really think? And weren't you really, that kind of thing. Number 4, love bombing. We looked at that last week. One of the red flags. Affection, compliments, it's constant or overboard affection or compliments. It may seem positive, but the motive again is emotional manipulation by gaining your trust, then gaining full control. Gaslighting, this one. Gaslighting is denying, deflecting, blaming you, turning it back on you, making you second guess yourself. So if you have a complaint, I saw a little TikTok video on this, a woman, saw somebody's name on, caught her man cheating. And this is how he gaslit her. He said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, I looked at your phone and I saw such and such. What are you doing looking at my phone? Why are you violating my privacy? Well, you went into the store and I just happened to be, so now I can't trust you with my privacy. And see how we just totally flipped the whole conversation so that to deflect from the fact that he's been caught cheating. And not only is he deflecting from that, now he's blaming her, because he's like, see, this is what the problem is in our relationship. Blaming her, all she did was maybe look at your phone because she was bored waiting for you in the car, but you've turned it all the way around into something far worse, and now he wants to break up with her. That's gaslighting. Number 6, ignoring boundaries, invading your privacy, following your every move, and ignoring your requests. They expect and demand all kinds of things, but you can't have any requests. Number 7, projecting. They won't take the blame for their mistakes, but will flip it on you. So that's, it's part of gaslighting, is projecting. They'll deny guilt, they'll attack the victim, they'll put the guilt on the victim and undermine the victim's credibility. We have experienced that. Number 8, nitpicking. The narcissist will make you feel like everything you do is wrong. Your appearance, your behavior, how you talk, how you eat. everything. That's nitpicking. And that is another manipulation to control you, to undermine your confidence, to second guess yourself. Because everything you do, they nitpick at it. So pretty soon before you know it, you're afraid to do anything because you think you'll get criticized. So those are some of the traits and characteristics of things that narcissists do in relationships. Examples of narcissistic abuse: withholding money, withholding affection, withholding communication. That's all on purpose. Number two, another example, emotional blackmail. If you don't do what the abuser wants, they will make you feel guilty or afraid. Excuse me a second. So that's emotional blackmail. Third example is insults, verbal abuse. So that can come in the form of name calling, criticism, insults that are a way to erode the victim's self-esteem. Number four, malicious gossip. It's slander, it's false accusations. These are all spread by the accuser or the abuser as a way to isolate you from other people. Okay, so there's that example, an example of how they want to isolate you from family and friends. Another example of narcissistic abuse is sabotage. The narcissist will sabotage your career, your relationships, your hobbies, the things you like to do. They will sabotage your hopes, your dreams, your interests, and etc. And it's all to keep power over you. And a last example of narcissistic abuse is accusations. They will lie, they will steal, they will cheat, which puts you on the defensive, which deflects from the abuser's bad behavior. They will accuse you of lying. They will accuse you of stealing. They will accuse you of cheating. And that keeps you in a constant state of defensiveness. And that is done not because they really believe you've lied or cheated or stolen from them or anybody else, but it deflects from their own bad behaviors. Narcissists cannot be wrong. A lot of narcissists are perfectionists as well. They cannot be wrong. They do not. Their brain goes tilt, tilt, tilt when it's time to be held accountable for a sin or a failure or a weakness or a shortcoming in themselves. They cannot stand it. They will put it back on you. And then let's go. We got 3 minutes. Effects of narcissistic abuse. The effects of it: anxiety and depression, health issues, PTSD, cognitive issues. Okay, those are some of the effects. And how to deal with a narcissistic abuser. Single women, know the signs and avoid that person. Wives, first of all, you stay sound-minded, and Lord willing, next week we've talked about sound-mindedness before. That is one of those Titus 2 principles. The older women are to teach the younger women to be sound-minded. And I've taught on it. We did a couple of series in the past 2 years on that. Is so important. We'll look at it more closely starting next week, Lord willing. Wives, you stay sound-minded. Seek counseling for yourself. Don't blame yourself. And know in advance that the person does not think totally rationally. They are more concerned about being right and getting attention. When they accuse, for instance, ask them why they think that thing about you. Don't just get on the defensive, throw it back at them. Why do you feel that way? And make them explain it to you. Just keep saying, I disagree with you. I disagree with you, but don't go into, I disagree with you, and how could you say that about me? And you know why they say it about you, because they're narcissists. And they like to attack, and they like to victim blame, and they like to project, and they like to avoid their own faults. When they accuse, for instance, wait, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't necessarily offer more than just, I disagree with you. I think you're lying. I think you're cheating on me. I know I'm not. Silent. Don't say anything else. Or why do you think that way? Don't get sucked into trying to be rational with an irrational person. Keep your expectation and your hope in Christ, not the narcissist, and rest in the fact that God knows the truth. Pray and trust God. Excuse me. This is the last point, if I can get through it without coughing. And this is again for wives, you're already married to a narcissist. Tell a godly family member, a friend, your pastor, or somebody trustworthy what you're going through so they can support and defend you. Now, not all narcissists are physical abusers. Okay. So this is not, if you're married to a narcissist, it doesn't mean, oh, a narcissist, I need to leave the house. Leave the house if you and your children are physically threatened or have been hurt. You leave. If he's a narcissist, that's where you need to stay sound-minded and do these other things. Find somebody trustworthy that you can talk to about it, who knows what's going on. We're at the top of the hour. Next week, as I said, we'll talk about the role of sound-mindedness with domestic violence and dealing with it. And hopefully we'll be able to close out on this topic and move on to the next. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? I'm here for another hour for the non-recorded portion of our time, our optional time, which is not recorded, for Q&A and for open discussion. All right, ladies.
Can you repeat the one that's, you said single women something, and then you said wives stay sound-minded and
Okay,
seek.
single women, know the signs and avoid that person. Even if you are engaged to somebody, single lady, who has any of these traits, or a lethal combination of any of these traits, whether it's narcissism or just an abusive person in general. Even if you are engaged, engagement does not necessarily mean if you leave them, you're divorcing them. Okay, so if you are in physical danger, leave right away. Leave physically. Get away from close proximity from your abusive husband. Good night, Lisa.
Good night, Lisa.
And so hopefully that's clear about single women and versus married women. In either case, the single women, I said last week, I didn't repeat this part, but there are some deal breakers as to who you're going to meet, who you're going to marry. He should be a Christian. If he's not a Christian, deal breaker. If he's got serious addictions of any kind, deal breaker. You cannot save him. We should not be playing savior to potential husbands. What else did I mention last week? If he and if he's a Christian, make sure you can see there's evidence of fruit, sustained fruit, before you say I do or I will marry you. If he has a problem with your relationship with your family, if he isn't jealous of your relationship with your family, or it's okay if he has any issues with his own family. Like, this world is full of dysfunction. in households. We all grow up with one degree or another of dysfunction. So I'm not saying, oh, unless he came from a perfect household, mom and dad, and white picket fence, and 2 dogs and a cat, and whatever. That's that's next to impossible. But if he's jealous, if he does not have a good relationship with his family, and he's jealous or has a problem, good night, Nicole, with your
Right.
relationship, good relationship with your extended family, your parents, your siblings, cousins, whatever, that I say would be a deal breaker, because he's not going to want that when you get married. He's going to have a problem with you wanting to be with your family or having the family around. So, but definitely any signs of being a physical abuser and a narcissist for single ladies. Oh, okay, stay then, Nicole. I'm glad you're staying. But anyway, yeah. Single women have that advantage of, being able to hopefully be discerning and make good, wise decisions about who they date, who they get serious with, who they say, I will marry you, and who they marry. So, yeah. So I'm here for another up to the top of the hour. I'm going to stop recording now.